This is the Conscious Hour, and this is going to be a conversation that might wake some people up. Jeffrey Sachs is one of my favorite people in the world. He's an economist. He's worked with people from around the world. He's been always bringing people together, and we're living in a world of division and paranoia about Russia and lies about Russia. Just the whole gamut of Western propaganda that allows us to go in and create these what we call proxy wars so we can expand our empire. And we've been driven by who? The Zionist lobby. They're driving wars. They've driven every war we've been involved in. But let's get into this one. Listen closely so you can learn something that the Western media doesn't tell you about, and the agreements that were in place for years that have been totally ignored by the West because they just believe that they're superior to all of their nations. Come on, cue up here, internet.
Or, and do the Russians trust the Americans?
Nobody trusts anybody because nobody speaks very clearly. The Europeans are hopeless in this. Zelensky is not only a not funny comedian way over his head, but he's on top of a cabal that probably could do him in or try to do him in if he tried to do anything else, like actually sign an agreement he agreed to back in March 2022 that the United States stopped at that point. In other words, it's it, it it's not a situation of trust because there isn't maturity in this process. There isn't the conditions for trust. Trust is you put issues clearly on the table. You explain to your own publics what these issues are about. You explain how we got into this mess, which, if Trump really didn't want to own the war, he had grounds for explaining. It was Obama who uh, did so much to make the coup in February 2014 and very unwisely backed the coup that put in this whole rabidly pro NATO group that created the conditions of war and that failed to implement the Minsk agreements. Trump had his way, but we're just not at the level of sophistication in a complicated mess like this for them to find their way out. So I don't think that it's purely vested interests or lies that are keeping this going. I think it's incompetence.
Does the United States respect the UN Charter that it wrote?
Of course not. Not at all. In fact, Mr. Stephen Miller, who's called the brains of the White House, under some bizarre definition, says openly, those are niceties. That doesn't matter. The UN Charter means nothing. It's only power that counts. That's the language of fascism. That's not the language of democracy, which depends on the rule of law, which is based on the rule of law. And the idea that there is an international rule of law would come as a big surprise to most American presidents over more than 2 centuries, who understood about treaties and cared about treaties. And the UN Charter is a treaty which the United States Senate ratified in July 1945. It's not just something that was waved in front of us. It was written, first draft by the United States under President Franklin Roosevelt's leadership. It was negotiated by the founding member states of the UN, and then it was ratified by the United States Senate. And that makes it the law of the land under the US Constitution. But does the United States respect the UN Charter? No, not for one moment.
How?
And they don't do it for one reason because Congress is, as we all know now, 93 to 97% of Congress are serving Israel. So a foreign country is basically dictating to us what they want. And who is that foreigner that just keeps lying and walks around and looks like the devil? Benjamin Netanyahu Melaskowski. That's who he is. He's the devil. He has got the purse strings on everybody. This is why this Epstein thing is so critical, because now we see how all of our politicians and people in the Supreme Court, they're all into this thing of Jeffrey Epstein because he used them for leverage so they could always get what they want. Israel has bled the US taxpayer base since we started supporting them. Oh my God, it's in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. Wrap your head around that, folks. All the support, every time we've gone to war, they created 911, they created every need for war. Who's they? The CIA and Mossad. This is the Conscious Hour, folks. Share this video, speak out. We, the people, can make this thing happen, but we've got to come together and do not think about your Republican and Democrat senators. You know why, and congressional members, because they're compromised. So we, the people, have to have a democracy that represents us, where we're being paid actual wages that we can live on, and that we don't have this infighting. Because when you really break it down and you go to your 4th of July picnic, you don't care if a guy's a Republican or Democrat. You're friends. You sit there and talk. And the irony of it is most people don't trust politicians. This is the Conscious Hour. Please share and like this video. And remember, are we the people? If we all speak out, we can change the course of history, but we need to change it fast, because the Palestinians are being mass murdered, so there'll be nobody there. So Jared Kushner can build a $40 billion Viva Las Vegas over the dead bodies. They want to expand the coastline clear into Lebanon so they can build that entire place. And now, of course, the U.S. is going in and they want to stop. They want to create a war. They want to stop Iran from what? Being a sovereign nation. Exactly. And they want to get it and steal their resources. So what's coming next is tick tock, tick tock. The time clock is now running out. They're bringing in the fleet. They're bringing in right now. They're waiting for the Ford, Gerald Ford. It was hit once before, but it's waiting for that one, and then they're ready and locked and loaded because they think that Iran's the problem, and we know it's not. The problem is Benjamin Netanyahu. He's Diablo. It's the Conscious Hour. Like to share it, push it out there, folks. You need more likes. We need my voice out there because I'm creating solutions, and we all need lots of solutions. Thanks for tuning in.